Our episode today, dear listeners, unfolds a true story extracted from the book Rare Cases. The author, Abdul Wahab al-Rifai, a psychiatrist, delves into the most peculiar cases he encountered throughout his medical journey. Each chapter of his book narrates a unique case that presented itself at his hospital. The tale I share with you today bears an ending so unforeseen and startling that it defies imagination. To fully grasp the gravity of these events, I invite you to immerse yourself in the narrative. Should you possess headphones, I encourage you to don them now and envision the unfolding oddities alongside me. Should this story resonate with you, I contemplate creating a series of episodes dedicated to this book, bringing these narratives to life. As we embark on this journey, I will channel the voice of Dr. Abdel Wahab al-Rifai himself, allowing you to partake in the ambience and intricacies of the story. Without further ado, and invoking the Almighty's name, we commence. Amidst the mundane rhythm of daily preparation for work, I ponder my chosen path, psychiatry. Since embracing this specialty, an inexplicable fear has taken residence within me, particularly within the confines of my apartment. The mere echo of a voice or the slightest abnormal movement, whether external or internal, triggers this trepidation. Some jest, labeling me the crazy doctor, oblivious to the irony that those deemed insane may in fact possess wisdom beyond the ordinary. For they have witnessed phenomena that would shatter the psyche of the average person, potentially leading to cardiac arrest or madness. Today's narrative centers around Sahar, a former patient of mine. A Kuwaiti teenager, Sahar's youthful beauty was overshadowed by a perpetual silence, her gaze eternally laced with fear. She communicated solely through written words, her thoughts and experiences meticulously documented in a simple diary, her sole confidant. Curious about the contents of her diary, I requested access, to which she consented. As I delved into her entries, I discovered a voice uniquely hers, revealing fears and secrets previously unspoken. Sahar's entries began with a confession of her deep-seated fear of her grandmother, a woman of silence, devoid of the joviality typical of her age. Her visage, marred by wrinkles and gray strands, lacked any semblance of warmth. Instead, it exuded an aura of malice and dread, a stark contrast to the grandmotherly kindness one might expect. Despite her advanced years, her refusal to employ domestic help was adamant, her vigor in performing household tasks astonishing. The peculiarities escalated when, under the veil of night, my grandmother would stealthily enter my room, her actions shrouded in mystery. She'd scrutinize my bed with photographs, her presence looming over me as I feigned sleep. Her nightly rituals, rummaging through drawers, wiping mirrors, left me with more questions than answers. Why did she partake in these nocturnal activities? What was she searching for? Despite living under the same roof, our interactions were minimal, devoid of affection or animosity. My childhood memories of her were tinged with a sense of obligation rather than genuine care, as if I were merely a responsibility rather than a cherished grandchild. This emotional distance only compounded the trauma of losing my parents in a tragic accident, an event that left me orphaned and under the sole guardianship of my enigmatic grandmother. In the aftermath, my life became a monotonous cycle of isolation, dictated by my grandmother's stringent rules. My academic performance suffered, my self-esteem plummeted, and I found myself questioning my existence. Why was my life so divergent from that of my peers? Why was I subjected to such a fate? As I navigated the labyrinth of my psyche, I realized that the answers I sought lay within the pages of my diary, the silent witness to my inner turmoil and the key to understanding the enigma that was my grandmother. I hope this revision provides a clearer and more engaging version of your story. If you have any more requests or need further assistance, feel free to ask. 1. Was deprived of speaking to anyone in my life. I clung to the hope that Walid, despite our brief interaction, could offer a glimpse of a life beyond the walls of my grandmother's house, a life where I could be more than just a silent shadow. The following morning I awoke with a sense of dread, knowing that my grandmother's watchful eyes had somehow pierced through my veil of secrecy. Her words from the previous night echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of her control over my life. Yet there was a flicker of rebellion within me, a desire to break free from the chains of her oppressive guardianship. As I sat at the computer, pretending to immerse myself in the mundane tasks of the day, my grandmother entered the room unannounced. Her gaze was sharp, her voice laced with venom as she revealed her knowledge of my clandestine conversation with Walid. She warned me to abandon any notions of romance or escape, claiming she had already sabotaged any chance of a future with him. Her threats were clear. She was the sole guardian of my existence, the only security I had in this world. But her words only fueled my resolve. Through tears and a trembling voice, I confronted her, declaring that I would not be caged forever. I professed my hatred for the life I was forced to lead under her roof and vowed that one day I would find love and freedom. My grandmother's response was cold and dismissive, a cruel attempt to crush my spirits by insisting that Walid's intentions were not genuine. She left me alone, her departure leaving a trail of tears and shattered hopes. In desperation, I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I dialed Walid's number. I needed to hear his voice, to confirm that the connection we had made, however fleeting, was real. I needed to believe that there was someone out there who saw me for who I truly was, not just the broken girl my grandmother perceived me to be. The phone rang, and with each tone my heart raced. Would he answer? Would he offer the solace I so desperately sought? Or would my grandmother's words prove true, leaving me to face the harsh reality that I was truly alone? This continuation aims to capture the emotional turmoil and the longing for connection that Sahar experiences. If you need further assistance or another part of the story revised, please let me know. I'm here to help. After many attempts, Walid finally responded to me. However, he said, "Please, Sahar, forget that I gave you my number because your grandmother called me and threatened to ruin my entire life if I called you again. She even cursed me. Frankly, I don't want to get involved, especially since her voice was very scary, and her words indicated that she was up to something. Not just one thing. But I hope you won't bother me again." I pleaded with him. "Walid, may God protect you from hearing her words. And please don't forget what exists between us. I can't stay away from you. At least consider it." His response surprised me. He said, "Come on, what's between us? It was just one call. Why are you talking as if it were a long love story?" I made no promises. It was only a few minutes of conversation. To be honest, his words were true, but I felt encouraged. I told him, "Walid, you're the first young man I've ever spoken to. When I talked to you for the first time, I felt like I was finally living. Walid, I need you. Please don't leave me." He replied, "Sahar, your life is mysterious. Tell me more about it so I can understand your situation. What's really going on?" I shared my life with my grandmother, hoping he wouldn't abandon me. I even mentioned that she might be a witch, the person responsible for destroying my life, studies, and isolation. She always performed some strange ritual in the room at 2 o'clock at night, but when I told him all this about my grandmother, he fell silent for a while. Then he said, "Sahar, I'll be honest with you. I'm a young man, and I have no intention of getting married. Don't think of me as a savior or a brave knight. I won't save you from your grandmother. That's impossible. I was attracted to you because of your beauty, and my intention was merely to communicate and get to know you, not to establish a relationship. As for your grandmother, with all due respect, her voice is terrifying. You confirmed what I suspected. You've been living with her all these years, and you're afraid of her. So, what do you think about me, who spoke to her for the first time and heard her frightening voice?" But then, he changed his tone as if everything was okay. He stopped calling me and being friendly. "Defend yourself, Sahar," he said. "Defend your freedom and independence. But don't ever tell me you respect your grandmother. Honestly, I wasn't paying attention." Despite his philosophical words, all I as an ugly and frightening person. Of Of course, I didn't hear his words, but I promised myself that I wouldn't lose this connection with him. I deleted the call log every time I spoke to him, so if my grandmother searched my phone, she wouldn't find any evidence. I memorized his number by heart, hidden and unseen. But what I didn't realize was that my grandmother had a big secret. Despite all my precautions, she was smarter than me and always a few steps ahead. One day, during a seemingly normal lunch, she looked at me and said sharply, "Why do you persist in lying? Do you think I'm old and foolish? You're deceiving me. I knew you'd call Walid again, and I have news for you. I called him and threatened him a second time. I made him confess whether he was still communicating with you, and I learned everything. So from now on, you won't have a phone or leave the house without a neighbor's supervision. The neighbor will bring us our necessities, and that's it. You don't deserve any trust." Trembling, I tried to gather my strength and told her, "You can't control everything. I won't stay locked in this house, Grandma." She continued eating, seemingly unfazed. Then she declared, "I am the decision-maker in this house. You're living under my roof, and from now on you won't use the phone or leave the house except to collect your government salary. Anything beyond that is forbidden." I mustered my courage and replied, "But Grandma, I'm the one supporting this household with my government salary. It's the government's salary. It comes to me, not you. Why don't you do me a favor and give me my freedom?" I let my grandmother finish eating. She gave me a piercing look and said, "Since when have you been the one providing for the house? You live in my house for free. If you leave, your money won't be enough for you. Are you even thinking of buying a new house? As for the young man, I'll forgive him this time, because you're the one who called and pursued him. But next time, I won't be so merciful. That's it. The matter is closed, and my secrets are mine alone. I have straw and furniture, and my soul is in your room." I went to my room, crying, feeling like I was sentencing myself to death because I had nothing to live for. All my dreams were shattered, all my hopes dashed. There's no future, no life, no living like other people. I wish I had the courage to confront her, but I can't. Just looking into her eyes and hearing her voice makes me tremble with fear. After a while, my grandmother came into the room and took my phone. "I hate this old hag," I thought as I sat on my bed, trying to devise a plan to escape. But how could I escape, and where would I go? I have no one. I'm completely isolated. I lost myself in my thoughts until I fell asleep. I woke up to my grandmother's voice as she performed her frightening ritual at 2 a.m. I felt her breath in my ear as she whispered, "I know you're thinking of escaping. Believe me, it's not in your best interest. Never disobey my orders or be stubborn with me. For the millionth time, any thought you have, I know it before you even think it." Then she left the room, and I was left astonished by her words. How could she know what I was thinking? At that moment, I was convinced she was a witch. "Oh Lord, take her away from my life," I prayed. After reflecting on her words, I decided to surrender and never resist her again, especially after realizing she knew my thoughts. The next day passed uneventfully. At 2 a.m., I entered my grandmother's room without pretending to be asleep. I approached her, avoiding eye contact so I wouldn't break down. "Grandma, I'm sorry," I said. "I promise to listen to you from now on and never disobey you again." She looked at me strangely and left. I vowed never to do anything to upset her again. This was the last page of my life, according to Sahar's memoirs. Now, speaking as Dr. Abdel Wahab al-Rifai, when I read these memoirs, I went to Sahar's room and found her dressed in an old-fashioned way, wearing a white wig and makeup to make herself look like an old woman. She changed her voice completely. You might wonder how Sahar ended up in the psychiatric hospital. Remember Walid, who was talking to Sahar? She called him, pretending to be her grandmother, and imitated her cold voice. Walid, frightened by the threats, thought Sahar's grandmother might harm her. He disguised himself as a government official and went to check on Sahar. When he saw her dressed as her grandmother, he called the police, and she was taken to the psychiatric hospital. It turned out that Sahar's grandmother had died, and Sahar had buried her in the garden. From that day on, Sahar began impersonating her grandmother. The one threatening Walid wasn't the grandmother. It was Sahar. Sahar suffered from a dissociative identity disorder, unable to accept her grandmother's death, and believed her spirit had transferred to her. If you enjoyed the story, let me know, and I can share more stories from Dr. Abdul Wahab al-Rifai's book, Rare Cases. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. May peace be with your beloved heart. God bless you. Please note that this is a translation of the story as provided, and I've maintained the essence and narrative style of the original text. If you need any further assistance or revisions, feel free to ask.